Hey, welcome to Making the Case for Your Lawyer Dreams. We have had a phenomenal week thus far, and I hope it is something that you guys have learned so much information from. I'm hoping that through this process, that not only have you gotten the tools that you need to help improve your law school applications, but also found ways to be able to find and apply the strategies and techniques that our guests have provided to you guys to help you improve your chances of getting into law school. For you guys who, of course, have first joined us, let me introduce myself. My name is Anthony, and I am the founder of Becoming JD. I founded Becoming JD because we need more of you guys in law school, period. I said it, and I'll say it at every session. In 2019, unfortunately, we saw a drop in the amount of people who was accepted into law school that looked like me and you. And so we're trying to end those trends, y'all. We're trying to make sure that that is something that stops, ends, and is not going to find itself repeating itself when it comes to the fall 2020. We've had the luxury, the pleasure of having guests throughout the week, and we're going to continue this momentum. Of course, since it's Wednesday, and of course, I don't know about you guys, but I was raised in the church, we decided to title this particular session, Satan, I Rebuke You. You know, we're rebuking the doubt. We're finding ways to be able to find solutions to the problems that are facing so many people like yourself in your journey to trying to become a lawyer. All right, so we have a great guest that's going to be coming on today. The whole goal, his name is Jeremiah Allison. Used to play football for Washington State. Go Wazoo. We're going to wait for him to join the session. Jeremiah, I see that you just popped into the session, so make sure that you ask to join the session as you just did right now so we can go ahead and get you on. Remember, the purpose of these Making the Case sessions is for you guys to get the questions that you need answered. We want you guys to understand that the struggle is something that everybody who wants to be a lawyer goes through. And just because you're struggling does not mean that you can't be a lawyer. It just means that you got to find a way to make it happen. And so all of our guests so far this week have found a way to make it happen. And the same is true for our next guest. His name, of course, is Jeremiah Allison. Let's go ahead and get him on so we can go ahead and continue this process of dropping these gems and empowering you to be successful when it comes to applying to law school. And as usual, let's go ahead and continue the trend like we've had before. I ask and I encourage you guys to continue to fill up the chat log. You're not just here to sit here and view these sessions. You're here to get answers. So fill up the chat box. Put questions down, and I promise you that we are going to address every question. So, again, thank you so much, Jeremiah, for joining us for this phenomenal session. This is our Power Wednesday. You know, Wednesday is Bible study normally for most people, so we're talking about rebuking the doubt and finding solutions. So I'll go ahead and give you the floor. You can introduce yourself, and then we can go ahead and begin the session.
Absolutely. So this is my first time using Instagram Live. I'm not really too in tune with it, so please forgive me if I don't use it the correct way, but I'm Jeremiah Allison. I am a 3L at Mitchell Hamlin in the state of Minnesota. I grew up in Los Angeles, California, where I played football and played at a football powerhouse by the name of Dorsey High School. Chose to play at Washington State for Coach Leach. However, unfortunately, when I was choosing the school I wanted to go to, my mom, she actually suffered a heart attack. And, you know, I got to Washington State in 5 days before I played BYU. She actually passed away. So, you know, just want some of that adversity that we kind of discussed and we're going to discuss in this segment. And then got to Washington State, helped change the program around, helped lead the team to a bowl win over Miami University, or University of Miami, rather. And then after that, I had my shot at the NFL, didn't go the way I wanted to go. So I started working at the Senate in the state of Washington. And then, you know, it was always for me, law school was plan A and the NFL was just a dream of mine. So I always knew I was going to go to law school, and that's what I ultimately did. Didn't take the traditional route, not the traditional student, but nevertheless, I got a chance to show this institution what I'm made of, and I'm definitely making a name for myself in this industry.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that becomes very important, so many people unfortunately believe that, okay, just because I am not the so-called ideal student, right, that I can't be a lawyer, I can't get into law school. Oftentimes, some things that we end up disqualifying ourselves because we say to ourselves, you know what, my LSAT score is not a 164. Or heck, my LSAT score may not be a 152, which is the average. I got kids. You know what? I've been out of school for a long time. That this is just something that can't be done.
Right.
However, the purpose of these sessions is for you guys to understand that the struggles that you're going through, this might sound real harsh and cold, but it's the truth. But there are so many other people that are going through those same struggles and finding a way. And understand one of the most important things that I hope you got from what Jeremiah talked about is the struggle is real. But however, there are solutions out there for you to learn how to successfully navigate that process. And I know at times it may seem as if you're alone, but nevertheless, we created this platform, we created this community to serve as a resource for you guys to get all the answers that you need.
Absolutely.
So continue to fill up the chat box. Continue to go ahead and make sure you throw down some questions. We got access to resources here, so make sure that you use them.
Absolutely.
All right, so for our session today, we're saying the name of the session again is, I wanted to say Satan, but Satan, I rebuke you. Doubt, I rebuke you. And so we're going to be talking about the men. Jeremiah are going to go back and forth. And again, at any time, feel free to drop a question. If, in fact, you see us continue speaking, it's not because we're ignoring you. It's because we want to make sure that we're going to get every question answered by the time that this session is over. Again, the whole purpose of this session is to be able to enrich you guys and help you guys get the tools of what you need. Now, one question that I always start with, and I think it's something that's very important, is because we know that at the end of the day, when it comes to applying to law school, one of the two most important things is your LSAT score and your GPA. So Jeremiah, can you tell them a little bit about how you went about strategizing when it came to studying? Because let's be real, man, when you were playing football, your time schedule was not really your own.
Right,
so
exactly.
Tell them how you had to make that happen, because you couldn't make excuses. You had to make it happen.
Well, to be completely honest with you, man, like, I didn't take the traditional route with law school. Like, everything happened literally by luck, if anything. When I was prepping for the LSAT, I had one foot in football and I had one foot in law. So I wouldn't say I didn't take it serious, but with football, everything is like planned down to the T for like the minute. So when I was doing it, I'm like, okay, like I kind of can make my own schedule with this law stuff. And when you talked about the average for the LSAT, and when we actually discussed this previously, about, you know, coming on to this segment, it was like, well, like literally I was way below the average for my LSAT, but I actually got a chance to take part in this program called Clio. And Clio is like a running start for law school. And what it does is it crams an entire semester of law school in 5 weeks. And basically, if you can prove your worth in that program, then you can survive, hopefully, in law school. And that's exactly what I did. I did that 5-week program, and it pretty much places you in the law school. But when I excelled in that law school program, it was hosted here at Mitchell Hamlin School of Law in St. Paul. And they seen that I was like, you know, pretty good at it. And they were like, you know what, like, we want you to come here. I was accepted to go to Idaho for law school. But they were like, how much is Idaho offering you? And I told them, they said, we'll beat that offer. So I ended up coming here for law school. And again, like, my LSAT score wasn't the best, but I found a way around that. So yeah, it's just one of those things where you have to find a way to get your foot in the door at least. And it's called Clio. So Clio, again, it's been around for a long time. They moved campus to campus. Last year, I think it was at LSU or Thurgood Marshall or something like that. But when I did it, when I did it in 2017, it was here in St. Paul.
It was at Southern University this past year.
Right, exactly. Southern University, right.
I want to ask some questions, even though I know the answers, but I want to make sure that they understand that. How much did you have to pay to apply for Clio?
I think it was $2,500. It's $2,500, and then they actually give you like maybe 600 of it back when you live on campus, because they actually let you. They pay for like transportation to back and forth to the school, and they take care of your room and board. So it's like $2,500.
Which is not even what you would pay for rent for 2 months, right?
Exactly.
So, well, the thing is, I want you guys to understand is there's so many programs like this out there, like Clio. Because guess what? I was a Clio scholar too.
Oh, Clio fellow. Okay.
Clio Clio was founded in 1964, you guys. I'm not trying to give you guys a history lesson, but I want you guys to understand that Clio was founded for the sole purpose of being able to help diversify the law school field when it comes to lawyers. At this particular time, 80% of lawyers are white males. And it's a huge elephant in the room. And law schools are making a lot of efforts to try to diversify their classes. And so they understand that your LSAT score may not always be an accurate representation of your ability to be able to do work. But you know what? That means that you have to take the ownership like Jeremiah did to find opportunities that are out there. Clio is not going to knock on your door and beg for you to apply to their program.
Right.
Clio is not going to send you emails and say, hey, here's an opportunity for you to go to law school. You got to go out there and find it. And these are some resources that can help you along the way.
Absolutely.
Listen, Hamlin cut him a check, even though his score was not supposedly where the ideal scores are supposed to be. So understand that. You can still find a way to get a check cut your way,
right.
But you got to put time and you got to find the resources that are out there and available to you.
Absolutely.
And honestly, $2,500 to me, that is a great investment if I know that I can go and blast this program and take the next step in getting into law school.
Absolutely.
Clio is spelled C-L-E-O.
Yes.
If you go to Instagram and you type in Clio, it'll actually pop up as _ Clio Scholars _ And I think on Instagram it'll come up as the Click program. But nevertheless, it is an invaluable resource. And even besides that program that Jeremiah participated in, one of the tremendous benefits is they also have access to test prep material.
Absolutely.
And help access to resources and webinars that you literally can go and watch right now.
Right. Yeah. So clear. Yeah. Clear.
The fact that you ain't got the bags. Listen, there are a lot of people out there that ain't got the bags.
Absolutely.
You know, that's only excuse if you can make it. They
Right.
got an abundance of resources that helped me get into law school way back when, and also, of course, helped Jeremiah as well.
Right. Yeah. And CLEO is an acronym for Council on Legal Education Opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue with our session. One of the things that oftentimes, one of the reasons why I brought Jeremiah on for this particular session is I want you guys to be able to understand that there are so many paths that people take to law school. I know that people oftentimes say, I may be too old, or you know what, I've been out of school for a while. But nevertheless, there are so many people who are still finding their paths to law school. And we want to make sure that you guys are very much aware of that process and understand that just like several people have done it, you can do it too. I know on our Instagram, one of the things that we really try to do is highlight people who are not the so-called ideal students who are finding ways to get admitted into law school, who are finding ways to graduate from law school, who are finding ways to pass the bar in spite of their circumstances. We got a whole litter of people that you can check out. But one of the things I want to ask you, Jeremiah, is when you found yourself in regards to applying to law school, what was your approach when it came to writing your personal statements? Of course, this is something that we ask everybody, but of course, we're still after this going to get into some of the topics we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. So when I was doing all that good stuff, again, I had like a pretty good resume. I did a lot of football. I did a lot of work in the community. I did a lot of, extracurricular activities outside of football. So my resume was very enticing. My GPA was decent. So I just basically put all that out there, and my whole thing, if you put me in the game, I can always hustle the rest. So,
Yeah.
So basically that's what I did. And when I got in the room with these, people, I was able to show them, who I was. But as far as applying to law schools, I was always taught the mentality of, you let them tell you no. So you apply to all the schools that you want to go to, and the worst thing they can say is no. And basically all you need is one yes. And that's how everything is. And all you need is one yes. So I got that one yes initially from Idaho. And then after that, then it just started rolling after that. But again, Mitchell Hamlin offered me a lot of money to come here. And it's like, that's where I want to go. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but like I was born in Minneapolis, but I moved to LA when I was 6. So my dad still lived out here, but my mom, she moved us to LA. So LA's home, but coming back here was just like a reunion rather.
And one of the things I want you guys to understand is, I've said this before in our previous sessions, is that one of the best ways to be able to improve your chances of getting admitted into law school is by being more flexible. Look, Jeremiah went from Washington State, LA, to Minnesota. So the more flexible that you are, oftentimes, the more opportunities that you may have available to be able to get your yes. I know at times you may say, I want to be in a place that may be convenient for me, but understand that all you need is one yes. And after you get that one yes, what you can do is then call this thing called transfers.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a client, unfortunately, she had a mindset. I want to go to Harvard. She got into UCLA. She said, no, I'm going to apply again. 3 years went by, and she ended up never getting into Harvard. But think about all that time that got wasted. Understand, just like Jeremiah said, man, all you need is one yes. Yes, you may have a dream school, an ideal school, but guess what? The first step is getting accepted into one school first. After you get into that one school, you can blast your first year, and then you can put yourself in a position to transfer. So understand that there's so many different paths that people are taking, and that the path that you may be on right now can still lead to you getting accepted into law school, even though it may not be a path that may be so-called ideal.
And not just that, it comes to a point where at the end of the day, everybody's going to take the same bar. So it doesn't matter what law school you go to. The law is the law no matter where you go. So wherever you go, you can be in a room with, people that go to Harvard, Princeton, wherever that may be, but you guys are going to take the same bar. And if you get to the same firm they're in, it doesn't matter where you went. At the end of the day, everybody's on an equal playing ground once you pass the bar.
Absolutely. And I mean, honestly, when it comes down to it, one of the biggest differences is going to be about how much money you owe the school after you graduate. Oftentimes,
Exactly.
That's where the biggest divide is. But once you get an opportunity to get your foot in the door and prove yourself and allow your receipts of accomplishments and your work ethic to show for itself, the school really doesn't really find itself being as important. But nevertheless, I want to answer one of the questions that someone had. Feel free to also add in your thoughts as well. Someone asked specifically, if you have a disability, can you go to law school? And the answer is absolutely. There are so many people with disabilities who are actually going to law school. And I don't know if you guys are aware of the latest news that actually changed. They're going to be making some changes to the LSAT for the sole purpose of ensuring that it's going to be a test that will be fair to people who may be hearing or seeing impaired.
Right.
So they're going to be teaching the logic games. And so law schools and Law School Admissions Council are aware of the fact that people with disabilities want to go to law school, and there's so many people out there who are doing it. There was one who just graduated from Harvard Law School. Not only was she blind, she was also deaf. So I asked people, I said, if they can do it, so can you.
Yeah, what's your excuse?
Exactly. Now, if in fact, let's say you have a learning disability, and learning disabilities, unfortunately, in the Black community is something that a lot of people do not quickly get diagnosed with. Law schools, and as well as the LSAT, do provide opportunities for you to apply to get accommodations for these exams. I did not know anything about these type of things before, but nevertheless, a lot of these resources are out there. But if in fact you do not take the time to look and investigate and explore, it could be something that could be beneficial to you. Now, if you have a learning disability, or let's say you've been diagnosed with ADHD, at the bottom of the law school LSAT form, they have a small notice that says some information about accommodations. It's very small, but click on that and follow the instructions and try to provide them with the documentation that they ask for, and then you could find yourself being able to get approved for accommodations. Now, if you get approved for accommodations, it could serve as a benefit for you, not only when you take the LSAT, which would be great, but also will serve as a benefit for you to be able to get accommodations once you go to law school, and also, of course, getting accommodations when you eventually sit for the bar. Anything you think about that? You know anybody that's in that situation before?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it always amazes me when I, come in contact with individuals who, the society deems as a disability. Like I have a guy who's sitting next to me. He sat next to me in my Concrim Pro class. He was actually blind, and guy was so smart. And it's like one of those things where it made me up my game, because it's like, okay, here I am, I can do these type of things. And, he's managing to, do things in his situation. So basically it's one of those things where I just make sure that I up my game, because I see people going through their own share of adversity or whatever the case may be. So, any way I can help, I love to help. And, I always, ask for help as well. So yeah, no, I mean, I definitely see individuals who are doing it. So don't think you're the only one doing it. Don't think you're the first one's going to do it. Like, there's people doing it. So, the only thing that you can get out there is do it.
Absolutely. Now we're going to talk again, continue our conversation about different paths to law school. one thing that a lot of people ask me about is they say, well, if in fact I have an associate's degree, what path do I have to take to go to law school? If you have an associate's degree, of course, you, in order to be enrolled in an ABA accredited law school, you're going to have to transfer to a college and, of course, where you can be able to earn your bachelor's. After you do that, of course, once you apply to law school, every school that you've attended since you started your journey to trying to get your degree, you will have to make sure that you get a letter of good standing from each institution. Understand that at the end of the day, when it comes to these grades and these GPAs, that they want to be able to see that you could be successful in your undergrad program. Now listen, life does happen. And honestly, we do a lot of growing up between our freshman and our sophomore year, which means that we do a lot of stupid stuff that makes no sense, right? But the thing is, they want to see that you've been successful. They want to see a track record of success. And so if, in fact, you had gone the route of junior college or community college in your journey to getting your bachelor's degree, understand you're going to have letters of good standing. Now, one thing that people ask often all the time is, well, how about my GPA? How will my GPA be configured? Well, the LSAT, the Law School Admissions Council, has developed a formula where they, what we call a UGPA, which is the universal GPA. And so you input your grades, and they're going to level out the playing field of everybody applying to law school. Now, in most instances, I hate to tell you this, fam, but in most instances, that means your GPA, whatever it may be, may likely drop. In some rare instances, it goes higher. But that is the way that they make sure that they can evaluate everybody on the same playing field.
Gotcha. And with the grades, like, I don't know, like, I'm not a grade type of person. Like, sometimes you got these firms, however, in these schools, they focus strictly on grades. But it's some of those people who they want to see, do you fit in the culture of the school? And then what have you done outside of school? So, I mean, you know, like, somebody can be as they call them, a gunner and have like straight A's. But if you can't dance with the bear, as they say, then, I mean, you may be a kind of a useless soul, because at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you have to find your niche. Now, again, it looks good on paper. I mean, you know, sometimes you got those paper champions, but like, I'm not one of them. Like, I'm a more of a I'll show you better than I can tell you type of person. And I do extracurricular activities to put myself on that pedestal with those individuals who have good grades. So, I mean, for those who don't have good grades, like, please don't get hung up on, I have to have this GPA to get this job, because that may not be the case.
And ultimately, I mean, I hope you guys caught the gems of what he's saying. Yes, you may not have to have a great GPA, but my man Jeremiah had a banging resume, so that way it was able to help level off any potential concerns that they may have about your GPA. Now,
Absolutely.
one thing I say all the time, if you want to be a lawyer, it should show in your resume. You can't be saying, I wanted to be a lawyer my whole life, and then I look at your resume and it's skinny and it ain't got nothing on it.
Right, exactly.
So you're able to find a way to try to level up your resume when you see that there may be some concerns about your GPA. So what if my LSAT score is lower? Well, if your LSAT score is lower, I understand this. You do want to try to have your LSAT score be as competitive as possible, but nevertheless, one of the reasons why people with low LSAT scores get admitted into law school is the same reason that Jeremiah just did with his resume. All right, we don't have any concerns. My man over here worked in this particular department. He went over here and did all these extracurricular activities. He sat here and had a full plate. So that serves as a way to help alleviate concerns that they may have about your score. Because that's why there are programs like Clio. That's why there are programs like the conditional acceptance program, designed specifically to help people who may not have a competitive LSAT score, to give them an opportunity to be able to prove themselves, and then they can get an opportunity to get admitted into law school.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I always encourage everybody, now listen, if in fact you do have a so-called non-competitive LSAT score, hey, even if your score is supposedly competitive, there's 26 conditional acceptance programs, and there's a Clio program. And it is no cost to be able to sign up first for these programs. There's resources that are out there available to you to be able to help you improve your scores. Just recently, the Law School Admissions Council partnered with Con Prep Academy. Con Prep Academy is a free, how much is it? Free LSAT prep course. The same thing that people are getting in Princeton Review, the same thing that people are getting in Kaplan, you can be able to get access to with the Con Prep Academy. Several people have used it to be able to get into law school. You get the same access to the same presentations. You get the same access to practice problems. So at this particular point, when it comes to it, no longer is money an excuse, fam, because they got resources out there. Because people have made an issue with the fact that people can't afford those resources. So LSAT said, you know what, fine, here you go. Make it happen. Free. Go use it. Go attack it. Last year, I think 25,000 people utilized the Con Prep Academy service, and a large percent of them found themselves getting admitted into law school. And the same thing can happen to you. But they're not going to announce these programs. They're not going to sit there and have it go all over your streams. You got to go out there and find it.
Absolutely. And then I seen someone say, how can I increase my work experience if you have not worked in years? I played football for 4 years. I didn't have not, we weren't allowed to work, you know, so it's one of those things where I didn't work. My first job came after college working on the hill. Well, actually, I worked at a car dealership first. Then I worked on the hill. So I've only had, before I came to law school, I've only had 2 jobs in my entire life. And then after that, when I got to law school, I worked at the prosecutor's office. And now I just landed at a corporate job. I work at Medtronic doing mergers and acquisitions. So long as you're doing something, what I banked on was doing community service. You can always find community service to do. And then also just trying to find your niche. Find something that you like to do and then do it. Like I like giving back to kids and doing a lot of football camps and inspiring the youth, so on and so forth. That's what I like doing. So I find things such as football camps, reading buddies, so on and so forth, and I put it on my resume. It's a resume booster because all it is, it gives you something to talk about when you're in the room with these people who's going to say, yeah.
And at the end of the day, it just comes down to hunger. I mean, the thing about it is you can't stay on the sideline. I said this during other sessions. You want this dream, you have to go out there for it. There are so many people out there who want the same dream as you, who have the same LSAT score as you, who have the same GPA as you. And so the only way that you're really able to help distinguish yourself and show your hunger is how you present yourself in your writing and also in regards to the receipts that you provide in your resume.
Absolutely.
And at this particular time, I tell people, and it may sound cold-blooded, I know you may work, I know you may have family, I know you may be tired, but what you have to be able to understand that there is an unlimited amount of resources now out there for you. Everybody loves free labor. There are law firms literally within 20 minutes of where you are right now. Go up there and ask them, hey, I want to volunteer, I want to get an opportunity to gain some experience. What's the worst thing that they could tell you? No.
That's the worst thing.
And if they tell you no, then guess what? You go to another one.
I used to tell myself, because that was another thing that I had, you know, playing D1 football, you're always told yes because everybody wants to be around a football player. But when I got to law school, I had to start from the ground up again. And I heard so many no's at these big law firms. I heard so many no's, like, oh, like, you know, we don't need you, or so on and so forth. And it got to a point where I had to recondition my brain and tell myself, like, I'm a unique key. So my unique key is going to open the door that's meant for me. And whenever you hear a no, it's just making room for another yes. And you're going to fall where you're supposed to fall.
Right. And so, I mean, the thing about it, so there's resources out there. You just have to go out there. I keep hammering this point home. If, in fact, you need to get legal experience, I encourage you to go to legal services type or legal aid. They are available in every state in the country, even Puerto Rico, even Hawaii. And all you have to do is maybe come out and you may have to type in legal services, or you may have to type in legal aid and find the one that's nearest to you and ask about an opportunity to volunteer. Several people who, of course, are part of our Becoming JD community have already done and are now gaining that legal experience. But you can't run an excuse because there are people who are finding little bits of time, little bits of Saturdays and Sundays to go do things. There are bar association meetings that are going on all over the country, and there are plenty of opportunities for you to be able to get your foot in the door, build relationships, start networking. So I'd encourage you guys Do not be afraid of no, because no is going to happen. But the only way you're going to get to yes is by hearing the no's. And at the end of the day, Jeremiah, with everything that you've done, aren't you? If you would have stopped at the no's, would you have gotten where you are now?
Not at all, man. Like literally every no got me to this point where I'm at now. And I work for one of the greatest companies in the world, Medtronic, doing M&A work. They create the pacemaker, and it's one of those things where literally my unique key opened that door for me, and I couldn't ask for a better place. Like, I don't know if a lot of people know about how law is set up, but it's kind of unheard of for a law student to go straight in house after law school, and I have that opportunity presented to me. So I mean, with that being said, like, all those no's just groomed me for this position where I'm in now, because I entered into that occupation hungry because I heard so many no's.
And one of the things I definitely want to touch base on, and that's a phenomenal story, and I want you guys to not only be inspired, but also understand the receipts that he used to get to where he was, all right? It's not about saying, wow, I love this story. It's about saying, wow, you know what? I could duplicate that hustle. I could follow in
Absolutely.
those steps and find a way to make it happen. Now, one thing I definitely want to touch base with, because you definitely can share about this experience, is that when that time between going to college, graduating from college, and going to law school. Now, oftentimes people find themselves struggling with trying to get letters of recommendations from professors when it's been, some time has passed. How did you go about getting those letters, even though some time had passed since you had graduated?
See, I network. Networking is key. Like, I'm actually in talks with one of my good friends here at Mitchell Hamlin. Her name's Kim. She was like, you should write a book called The Art of Networking. I'm a firm believer in networking. Networking is always key. So basically what I want to do is I want to tell people that if you network, whenever you need to come back and drink from that well, you may be able to revisit it if you stay on top of it. It doesn't take that much to send a text message and say, oh, happy birthday. How's your kids? How's that? And be genuine, come from a genuine place. So what I did was I met a lot of people while I was playing college ball. And then basically when I worked at the Senate, I said, oh, like, Senator Baumgartner, can you write me a letter of recommendation? I'm thinking about law school. And then let people know what your aspirations are. Let people know that you want to go to law school. People will get behind that because they know how much work you have to put in to obtain that dream. So, I mean, just networking is key. And then, you can always find places. I mean, we live in a social media era now. So you can always reach out to people and let them tell them who you are and strike up a conversation. And next thing you know, you guys are friends and buddy, and, you tell them what you need and so on and so forth. So what I did was I always made sure I kept close to my network, and I made sure that I reached out to people who, actually follow me through my career. So my head coach, Coach Leach, legendary coach right now, I asked him for a letter of recommendation. I asked the senator for a letter of recommendation, and I also asked my fifth grade teacher for a letter of recommendation. Yeah, so, just networking is key.
And one of the things you have to also see is you want to try to provide something unique, something that's different. Because one of the biggest mistakes is people say is their measuring stick when trying to identify people to select for letters of recommendation. They say, let me go look at my transcript. Let me see the person that got the highest grades in. And that's how they select who they're going to get their letters from.
Right.
And whether you go to a big school or go to a small school, what you have to understand is that even though if you do not have a relationship with those professors, which is something that's very easy to be able to develop, then you're going to risk having yourself get what I call a vanilla letter of recommendation. And a vanilla recommendation is one that is just literally a copy and paste template with the only thing that's being changed is the name.
Right.
One of the things I encourage you guys to do when you identify the person that you want to get to write your letter of recommendation, follow the guidelines of what Jeremiah just said. You want to try to go and meet with them. Go talk to them. Tell them your story. Share with them specifically why it is that you want to be a lawyer. So that way everything else flows. When a letter is written for you, at the end of the day, you should not be guessing about what's going to be in that letter.
Right.
You should already, because you didn't already shown.
Right.
And please, I beg you, I understand this may sound like a lot. Please do not email a professor or anybody asking for a letter of recommendation. That's something that has to happen face-to-face, or that's something that has to happen, it has to be personal.
Right.
Because at this particular time of day, professors, everybody's emails are being flooded.
Absolutely.
And I don't know about every day I get about 100 emails that I just erase and ignore. And you don't want to find yourself in that place where you've been that email that got erased or ignored or got moved to the junk box, so that you make that connection in person. Now, I know that may require in some situations you traveling, but understand that if in fact you are investing everything into this dream of becoming a lawyer, sometimes those are some things that you're going to have to do.
I see Micah asked any advice for someone looking to get into MD and JD. I kind of know about the MBA, but I didn't know there was an MD JD. You have any info on that one?
Absolutely. Dual degree programs are kind of a new thing that's currently happening right now. Oftentimes with MD-JD programs, ultimately, it may vary from school to school. One of the things that you're going to want to look at when selecting a dual degree program is you're going to want to be able to find out specifically. You got to ask these questions, because not all dual degree programs are together. Are the same. You want to know, what is the breakdown going to be? Because I'm sure Jeremiah can attest, law school is hard all by itself. And so you want to make sure that the time is going to be allotted in a way, especially for your first year, that you're going to be able to focus completely on law school. Because law school is selfish. It is not going to want to share your time or your energy. It's going to take everything that you got, especially your first year. Because you think you know how to read, fam, I'm sorry, you don't. You think you know how to write, I'm sorry, you don't. You think you know how to debate and argue, and it got nothing to do with law school, okay? But the thing is, so you want to make sure to find out how the dual degree program is set up. Several dual degree programs offer opportunities where you could do the other program in the summertime. And I would encourage you to select programs that are like that, because you don't want to find yourself taking on so much and you have no clue even how to figure out to navigate law school at first. Hope that answers that particular question.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. You right about that.
But one of the things that one thing I want to talk about, because we have a lot of families out there, a lot of people who have children, a lot of people who, of course, are balancing families while also trying to figure out how to go to law school. Of course, I did it. I had 3 kids and went to law school. But I want you guys to be able to understand that there are several people out there that are still finding ways to do it. And one thing that's fantastic oftentimes is law schools are very much aware, and they are attracted. They love unconventional, non-traditional students because it makes the school look great. They knew that, for example, when Jeremiah got accepted, he got the backing of a senator. He got the backing of a legendary football coach. He got the backing of his 5th grade teacher from way, way back then. That gives them a story that they want to be a part of. And so when you have people who have families, when you have people who, of course, are trying to juggle parenthood and also law schools view that as someone who knows how to manage their time well. Law schools view that as somebody that's going to be focused. And so I know at times that you may say to yourself, because I said it several times, man, if I didn't have no family, if I had more time, man, I could really kill it. But it's because you do not have that much time that you find ways to be able to master and make it happen.
Yeah, sense of urgency.
I'm sure there's several people in your law school right now who have families.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not a unique thing. At times, when you're by yourself studying for the LSAT, just put the kids to bed, you're saying to myself, man, ain't nobody out here doing this. I got to wait till these kids graduate from high school. And I've heard people say that, do not wait. Understand that the decision to go into law school will be tough, but the sacrifices that you can make for 3 years not only will change your life, but also serve and change their lives as well. And so I encourage you, there are several law schools that offer daycare. There are several law schools that offer part-time programs that could be available to you. I know when I went to law school, I was able to get a grant that paid for my child care. So that way I was able to help balance law school and also, try to figure out how to spread every dollar and every nickel and every dime. So the thing is that there are programs out there. So just ask. There's people that have done it, single moms with 3 kids. We've seen people do it with 5 kids. And so understand that just because you got kids does not mean that you can't be a lawyer. And of course, I hope you looked at the Instagram. You see, we got a whole lot of phenomenal parents out there doing it. And so don't think that the fact that you have a child or you have a family, that is a reason why you can't go to law school.
Oh yeah, after you get through the storm, man, the Instagram picture's gonna get a whole bunch of likes.
Absolutely. But what I want you guys to be able to understand is that there are very few people who are going to fit the ideal mold of what a so-called law student is. But nevertheless, you can still get you a bag, get a law school to cut you a check. But the thing is, for you to get a law school to cut you a check, you got to be able to show them that you are a commodity that they want and that they need at the law school. Jeremiah got to cut a check, and his LSAT score wasn't 170, and his GPA wasn't 399. So you can get law schools to cut you a check, but you're going to have to go ahead and put in that work and show them that you're not only a risk worth taking, but also a certainty and have a story that they want to be a part of.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time I view myself as an investment. So if you invest the time in me, I'm going to make sure I pay you back in dividends.
There we go. Bet on yourself. Now, one thing that people oftentimes ask me, and I'm sure you can also attest to this, is people often say, well, you know what, I have a career. There are options available for me to be able to go to law school and work part-time. Because law school is expensive. I don't know about you, and the money that they give you for cost of living is literally barely enough just to make it to the end of the semester. And so I understand that oftentimes people say, I need to work too. And there are part-time programs available out there. Syracuse has a phenomenal part-time program. So you have to go out there and look and research and identify those schools. It's simple. Just type in part-time law school programs in Google. Google is your friend. You can use it for so many other things other than just finding the lyrics to the next song that you like.
Yeah, no, and actually, just to plug Mitchell Hamlin has like a program that does that as well. We have people from all over this country who own, like right now it's Capstone Week. So we have people from different states. They come and get their in-seat time. But basically they have entirely different careers. They just want that JD or to practice law, whatever the case may be. So they do all the classes just like a regular brick and mortar student. But it takes them probably an extra year. But they're also doing a full, they're also working as well. So I mean, you could take that approach. You can pretty much handle your schedule however you want to handle it. But you can have a different career, another career, and do your law school thing as well.
And one thing that's beneficial about these part-time programs, kind of like the one that Jeremiah was talking about, is one benefit of it is, guess what? If at any time you say you want to be a full-time student, you can go ahead and take extra classes and accelerate the process. And so I know a lot of people, what they've done is they started off as part-time, and they just said, you know what, man, let me just go ahead and use this summer to try to stack and build up on some classes so I can catch up with my class and graduate in 3 years. So law schools are a whole lot more flexible than people realize. But again, unfortunately, there's so much information out there that I think what happens is that people just get information overload and they just assume, well, you know what, I'm not rich, so I can't go to law school right now. I got to work. I can't go to law school right now. But nevertheless, there are ways for you to go to law school in spite or regardless of the circumstances that may be before you. Let's see here. Now, one thing I want to ask you, and you could definitely share with them specifically, is when you were preparing for applying to law school, we know that, of course, you got Idaho and you also had Hamline. But how did you go about selecting the schools that you applied to? Because there's 202, man, that's a lot. So How did you go through the process? Because I think a lot of people need to find the process. So that's one of the hardest things to do. You got to find your yes. You got to find the right school to apply to.
So what I did was I actually applied to all the schools that I had offers to coming out of college. I took that approach, and then I looked at location and where I wanted to practice law. So I mean, I know I want to be initially to be. Sorry about that. Initially, I want to be on the West Coast. However, again, you never know what's going to happen. So when I was applying, I'm like, okay, like when I, did the football thing, I know I want to play in the Pac-12. So I applied to every school on the West Coast. And that's pretty much how I applied. Where you practice law, where you go to law school is usually where you're going to practice law. Usually, typically. But that's how I applied to law school. It just so happened Clio was hosted in Minnesota. Everything kind of came full circle. I was born here, and that's what happened. That's where my shop set up.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I want you guys to understand is for most of you guys, you've had 18 years, 22 years to be able to find and identify the environment that works best for you. Okay. And understand that, yes, rankings may mean something at some point, but rankings should not be the sole decision maker in deciding how you select schools. If you've thrived in an environment where it's a small classroom setting, then you don't need to be going to a big school. If you've thrived, if you've struggled in situations where you've been in a stadium seating, which is how one of my friends was at the University of Georgia, no shade to Georgia, but then you need to find and identify the environment that works best for you.
Absolutely.
Rankings oftentimes are something, I'll tell you, rankings are something that don't change often. The top 5 change very frequently, but after the top 5, everything is pretty much almost set in stone for the most part. So I don't want you guys to rely solely on rankings, but you have to really look and decide what works best for you. And understand that what working best for you and what's convenient are 2 different things, okay? Because it'd be convenient for you to stay close to home. It'd be convenient for you to be able to go to a school where you have family at. And yes, that would be great, but sometimes that's not the case. When I went to law school, I had to travel 200 miles every day. It wasn't convenient, but that's what I had to do. So that was 4 hours that I drove every day for 3 years. But understand that sometimes it's not going to be about convenience. It's about getting that JD. And I thought that I was driving a long way. And I found out it was a young lady that was literally staying in a hotel for the week and then going home on the weekend, which was 3 hours away. And so understand that everything that you think is so hard and so struggling, there's somebody else out there that's doing more, not complaining about it, and finding a way. So that's like that young lady found a way, and she's now at a law firm in Chicago. Then you can also make sure that you're doing the same thing as well. Let's see here. So continue to go ahead and fill our chat box. I hope I missed some questions, but continue to drop some questions here. One of the things I definitely do want to talk about, because I saw one of my clients into the chat, is I want to talk about international. Oftentimes, what people don't understand is that applying to law school is going to be a global thing. You're not just competing against people in the States. You're also going to be competing against people from all over the world. And with that in mind, for my international students, what I want you guys to be able to understand is when you are making that track from wherever you're coming from to apply to law school, you're going to be able – it's going to be critical for you to provide an explanation, because people want to know, I mean, dang, you coming kind of far. What is the reason that you're coming to this school? It becomes even more important. Why is this something that you want to do? And if, in fact, you are an international student, oftentimes you got to begin that process extremely early, because you got to get a visa, and you got to make sure that the law school is on the same page with the visa. So you got to make sure that you do those things and have your ducks lined up in the order quick. So you can't be procrastinating and waiting until the last minute for the deadline to apply to law school, or you're going to find yourself having to wait a whole nother year. So I just wanted to throw that out there for my international students that are out there as well. Let's see here. All right. And so one of the things that we're going to be wrapping up the session in a little bit, but one of the things I want to specifically ask Jeremiah about is when it comes down to time management. I know that when you were preparing for the LSAT, when you were preparing for your personal statements, or even hustling to try to get these letters and get this resume filled up, how did you go about managing your time? Because I think that's one of the biggest struggles that a lot of people are dealing with, because they get overwhelmed and they think that, okay, I'm going to do this at this point, and once that's finished, then I'm going to do this. And of course, it don't work like that when it comes to law school at all.
I'm very time oriented. Like, again, I've been playing football since I was 7 years old. So all my schedule's been like written out. Like, I still use paper and pen right now to this day. There's 24 hours in a day. Utilize all of them. Exactly. 24 hours in a day, utilize all of them. And I'm a goal oriented type of person. So I write goals on paper, and I like the process of scratching them out, and then at the end of the week, balling the paper up, throwing them away, and then making them again. So basically, you have to write it out. In my opinion, write it out and make sure you get it done. There's 24 hours in a day. Say in these 24 hours, I'm gonna get X, Y, and Z done, and don't go to sleep till you get them done.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure that I'm making sure that I'm talking to everybody that may be deemed unconventional. If, in fact, you found yourself in a situation where you were academically dismissed from law school, because I'm sure Jeremiah can attest, when you look to the left and you look to the right 1L year, not everybody was there.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Hey, I was almost one of them.
Yeah, but the thing is, if in fact you were academically dismissed from law school, there's not a lot of resources out there to tell you what you need to do. Understand that if in fact you're applying to law school and you were academically dismissed, there is a path for you to get back into law school. That path, of course, is going to require you to go do even more to demonstrate to law schools that you're worthy of a second chance.
Right.
Life happens. The transition from from college or career to law school is unlike anything that you've ever experienced in your life. And people who have been able to successfully demonstrate to the law school that they are worthy of a second chance will get admitted. Heck, because when I went to law school the first time, I got a 0.6 GPA. 0.6. That means I was working hard to not do well. But I found myself getting back into law school, and of course, now I'm practicing law. And so I would that your path may not be the conventional path, but nevertheless, if in fact you put in that work and understand that there has to be a way, even if you go to Google and you can't find one, then you're going to have to go and reach out to people who have resources to help you. If you got questions about being academically dismissed and trying to find your way, if you've been potentially kicked out of undergrad and still trying to find your way back to law school, there is a path, and there are plenty of people who are out there to help you. So let's go through this chat to see if we answer. Okay, here it is. Is it a negative or a positive to be a physician that wants to attend law school? Well, the thing about it, if you want to be a physician that attends law school, you have to be mindful of your loans. Listen, Sally just don't hand out blank checks. And Sally got a cap. There ain't no cap here. It's a cap. And at one point, Sally would be like, nah, bruh, nah, fam, we ain't got you. And so you have to be aware of what your debt is at this particular juncture, because there will come a point where you will not just automatically get a loan. You will actually have to provide and write an explanation for why it is that you're asking for more money. Because of course, these loans are great, but guess what? Sally gonna want her money back.
Yeah,
and one question that someone asked, they said specifically, they wanted to know, what was it? Hold on, let me scroll through and look. Okay, let's see here. Where is it at? Is it hard to get another? Yes. Let's see here. For resume or work experience, you already answered that one. If you do not work. I think someone asked a question about how does what you study in undergrad. Well, the UGPA is based off of your core classes. Those extracurricular classes that you may take, like PE or things like that, unfortunately, is great for your GPA when it comes to when you graduate. However, those are things that will not be included. The whole purpose of the UGPA is to put everybody on the same level. So, unfortunately, in most cases, that may mean that your GPA may be a whole lot lower than what it is currently as your regular GPA. But let's see here. I hope the information that you guys do. I want to thank you, Jeremiah, for taking the time. I know you're juggling a lot. Congratulations on all your success for taking the time to share things. Because at the end of the day, I'll just be frank with you guys, is that when Jeremiah looks around in his class and when I looked around in my class, I did not see a lot of people who look like me. And I do not believe it's because we did not have the skills, the talent, or the ability. It's because we did not know how to navigate the process. And so I'm
having a conversation.
And I'm hopeful that today that you guys were able to get some tips to help you navigate this process. So make sure you check out Clio. Make sure you check out Khan Academy. And also, you can always send us a DM and let us know what you may have questions about. There's law schools out there, but you just got to find the right one for you. Thank you guys for tuning in to our session. Again, thank you, Jeremiah. And
absolutely.
Till tomorrow, you guys. Let's end it. There you go.